Chair.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Michelle.
Sure.
Let me see here. I gotta try to, how I can do this here. All right. All right, it's 6 o'clock. I guess we can start our application review meeting. I know Alan, Chris, yeah, actually the application review committee is in attendance.
John, can you hear me?
Yes, John.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so I'm waiting for my computer. Something's going on. It's diagnosing itself. It's going crazy on me.
All right.
So did we do the attendance?
Not yet. We were just
And
about to. We were just about to.
All right.
If you want to
All
do
right.
that
So
now.
the secretary is on.
Well, she's recording right now.
Correct. So she has the list of all the people and everything that's on there. So.
Well, so far we only have 5 commissioners. There's 5 of us on. So Lori's here, Chris McDonald, Alan, and Jeff are here, and you.
Okay. So okay. So that's enough to get started with at least application review.
All right.
So why don't we do the pledge then?
Okay.
Alan, you want to lead us in the pledge?
Really. I pledge allegiance to the flag
To
of the States of America,
States of America, and to the
and to
republic
the republic
which
for which it stands,
which it stands,
one nation,
one nation,
God,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and
indivisible,
justice for all.
with
Justice
liberty
for
and
all.
justice for all. All right, thank you very much.
Okay.
All right, John, so the application review is going to be brief tonight.
Yes.
And John, why don't you kick off and
All right.
talk to us about Manresa?
All right. Thank you, John. Well, for the sake of all the commission members here, we had 2 applications this evening. The first one is Manresa Island. The second one is at Shorefront Park, which has now been delayed. I got a call from the agent, and they would like to meet with several members of their team prior to meeting with the commission, and they wish to postpone it until the July meeting, which will be our fourth Wednesday of the month. So Alan got a phone call. I got an email from him, and I did text him back indicating that we will honor his application at the July meeting. In any event, the first application is at 1 Manresa Island Avenue in South Norwalk. It's a COP, and this was the applicant is the Norwalk Power LLC, which is for ongoing wetland sedimentation remediation. And most of you, I'm sure you received so far the agenda that was sent around. And I'll just, for the sake of the record, read the COP. As a result of historic operation, the site around the Norwalk Harbor Generating Station is being remediated as part of the state corrective action program under the licensed environmental professional oversight in coordination with the Connecticut DEP Remediation Division. And the area of concern, as they indicate on the applications, the AOC, is a vegetated area about 55 acres, formerly used for coal ash and oil ash disposal. The analysis of the area indicate that the presence of sediment impacted by metals associated with coal ash in 4 wetland, the area of concern. The 4 wetlands consist of 2 freshwater, which on the application is designated by W3 and W4, and 2 saltwater tidal wetlands indicated by a W5 and W6. And it's only those 2 areas, W5 and W6, that is actually part of this application. So the tidal wetlands, W5 and W6, are the subject of this current permit application per the Connecticut DEP and the United States, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineer regulations. However, the proposed work that is indicated in both these areas and the activities in the 2 freshwater areas will be the same as will occur currently with those described herein for the two tidal wetlands. Let me get my bearings here. So the proposed sediment remediation will occur in wetlands 5, which is about 3.25 acres, and wetlands 6. You saw from the application, it's about 5.03 acres, which consists of a mixed palustrine and estuarine intertidal wetlands. And I had to go look that up, what those two words meant. The palustrine wetlands are characterized by the presence of trees, shrubs, emergent vegetation, where the planted roots are below water but grow above the surface, and they range from permanently saturated or flooded land. So it's almost a semi-swampish area that will be that is wet only during seasonal time. So this is the area that they plan to remediate. The proposed activities will remediate a shallow sediment composed of selected metals in the two tidal wetlands and include the following components, which I thought, as you saw the application, was very well put together and delineated. The sedimental removal involved the site preparation. They're doing excavation of the vegetation and about 1 foot of sediment in W5 area, and dredging of the submerged sediment to 1 foot in an open water area of the W6. There'll be sediment dewatering. There'll be characterization, transport, and offsite disposal of the sediment. So everything is going to be removed from the area. What they also plan to do is restoration, and the restoration of the excavated area to a pre-existing elevation. They're going to be putting some clean sand backfill and planting the restored areas with established native wetland vegetation. And then, as part of the remediation process, they're going to be wetland monitoring. They're going to be monitoring of the restored area to ensure that the native wetland vegetation becomes established. They have, let me see, I have the area here. Let me see if I can call this up. I don't know if Jeff is on the area online as well, but let me see if that is it here. Oh yeah. Oops. Let me see. I don't know if I could share my screen. Michelle, would I be able to share my screen?
Yeah, you should be allowed to. I think that I set it up.
Okay. Yeah, the areas that are being remediated are back down in here, in this area right in here. And I don't know if anyone has had any issues. As I said, I read over the application. From my standpoint, if anyone else had any questions, no issues with regard to that. It seemed to be very well professionally done, and we certainly support, remediation of the area. Now, I don't know if anyone has seen anything else that concerned that they wanted to bring up, or
Well,
Alan.
so,
All right, Chris.
well, I don't have a major concern. I will say that I did review it, especially in terms of, was their operation going to keep any sediment from leaching out into the into this part of the harbor? Because the Village Creek Fairway
Right.
is just off to the left of your image there, and
Yeah, down around in here. Yeah.
yeah, that's where it comes out, and the fairway is kind of to the left of that, maybe 100 feet or something. Once it's in a little deeper water, and then it kind of ends. We can't dredge past where they lay the cables anymore. So that's kind of where our dredging stops, and we've put off dredging that part, but because of economics. But but sedimentation into our channel is an issue for us. But it looked like, what their application said is they were going to plug the culverts
Right.
while they did this.
Right. And they were planning to put, again, sedimentation barriers all around the area where they plan to do the
Right.
digging.
Well,
Yeah.
John, but I came up with something else. I kind of need my screen to, if you.
Oh, well, you should have capability of sharing the screen as well, Alan. Chris.
Okay, yeah, so, okay, so
Oh, here, well, let me see if I have to push
no,
stop sharing.
I think I just overrode you, so,
Oh,
sorry.
here, I pushed stop sharing. Okay.
So do you guys?
Yeah,
you
we
guys-
got it. Yeah,
Yeah, so it's this area
right,
and then this area.
right.
and there's a culvert under the road here.
That's correct.
And then it subsequently drains under the road, under this
Right.
other road here. And you
Right,
can see these little C-shaped things are the culvert head walls.
right.
And then it comes out into this area, and Village Creek Marina being here and our fairway coming out this way. So it looked pretty thorough, and I wasn't concerned about that, but I did throw a kayak in the water the other night and paddled over here. It's only about a quarter mile from our beach. So, and what I came up with, now let's see, you see, I'm going to share another part. Where did it go? All right, let me. Sorry guys, I'm getting a little share screen.
Well, what issue did you want to bring up with that? And Chris?
So that concrete, I'm gonna try to get the pictures open.
Oh,
I took some pictures. Okay, here we go. So that concrete, it's a culvert head wall.
all right.
There's these blocks on each side, and that the pipe would go through. So will this allow me to scroll through these?
Well, we can see your screen.
Yep. So this thing is eroded. So this should be vertical, and it should be backfilled behind it. So this culvert head wall, this is the side of it, has slipped out of position or been eroded around or eroded from underneath. So it is no longer in position, and you can see the little here. Maybe I can even get this movie up, but the water was just flowing into the ground because and there was literally like a whirlpool here because the head wall is no longer attached to the culvert. So the water and the culvert is partially collapsed. So the water is now just flowing down. This was a pretty high tide. So there was a pretty good head to that W6.
Are we
here.
looking out toward the harbor that's going out toward the harbor, Chris?
Yeah, so this is from the harbor side looking back, and the
Right.
road and their wetland is beyond that.
Uh-huh.
We're now in the harbor side, not in their. I didn't go onto their property and over the road.
Right.
This is from the harbor side.
What is that pole? Is that a telephone pole or is that
Telephone pole, yeah,
in the water?
in the water.
Okay.
This was 2 nights ago. It was a pretty Monday night. It was a pretty good high tide. It was probably an 8.5 foot tide. But so their concrete head. Oh, here we go. Let's see if this will play. So the water is literally just the culvert's collapsed, and there's a break in the top, and the water just flows down into it instead of flowing through the opening in the head wall like it's supposed to, because that is I want to see my knees, but anyways.
Is that culvert there to decrease the pressure, the outflow of water going toward the harbor? Or
I think
set-
it's meant to just
just
there-
to slow
there-
down any erosion or anything? or-
yeah, there should probably be a splash. Yeah, because there should be a underneath part of it, like as a splash block.
I see.
And this whole thing would be backfilled so that just to protect the culvert from erosion, and the whole thing is eroded. So that element is failed, and they'll need to repair that. And just looking at the aerial photograph, it doesn't look like it looks like it's in the right place in the last aerial photograph. So this may have been something recent. I don't know. Or it
Yeah,
could
see,
be-
I don't know if that's out of their purview. I mean, it's something if you feel as though that we should bring
It's-
that to their attention and then
it's-
correct that.
Well, it's part of this wetland. It's part of the wetland system that they are working on, and they leave the one key to it actually flushing itself broken, and it's not going to flush correctly.
Oh, and you spoke also about plugging the culvert to during the process to keep suspended materials from coming back into the sound. It's kind of plugging the culvert is not just plugging the culvert here. Is that right?
Yeah, well, I mean, presumably the other end is open, and they could put a balloon type thing in there and inflate it and close it off. But the whole thing is that you're not getting the proper flow through this culvert because it's broken.
Let's see.
So whatever assumptions they're making about high water and low water in there, the water's not flowing in and out correctly. You can see that whirlpool. That means there's a pretty big pressure head between the
Right.
sound and that W6 body of water. If you have a proper culvert there, it would equalize pretty quickly. In this case, you had a big enough pressure head that it had to whirlpool down through a break in the culvert because the head wall is disattached. And then the water flowing out is just going to further erode that bank.
Okay.
So they may not be aware of this. Those plans were done in 2014 or something.
I thought they looked at, I think they did some recent,
The wetland evaluation was a recent document,
right.
but the drawings were dated 2014.
All right. Well, I'm sure I have no problem. The commission has no problem of indicating that be part of the recommendation that any remediation done in that area should also include, the remediation of any possible effluent coming out of that area.
Yeah. I flipped back to the drawings. They were originally done in 2014.
Okay.
There's a 2021 rev on it for including new wetland delineation boundaries. So they have updated it with that survey they did, but that was the wetland boundary survey. They might not have even looked over the other side to see what was going on with the head wall.
Well, I mean, we can certainly make that part of the recommendation that they review the area as if they're going to remediate that area for effluent coming out of that wetlands, that culvert area remains as a possible barrier between the remediation area and the Nog Harbor.
Right.
So, if anyone has any objection to that, we can certainly add that.
Well, they need to repair it, or it will further erode that.
Okay.
Like where that whirlpool was at a low tide, the water's squirting out of there. No doubt. I didn't go over there, but that's the reverse process. When that drains, it's not draining through the head wall like it's supposed to, and off over a splash block. That's probably why it's so eroded there to begin with. Why there's a 10-foot gap between the.
So that's the last culvert before it hits into the harbor.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, it's important that be, because the culvert's going to remain after this project is part of the way tidal water goes in and out of this wetland. So I think it's important that it be operating properly. If we spend all this time remediating the wetland, then we should really have the whole water flow as intended and as designed.
Yeah. So it's yeah, you see my screen. So here's the tidal inlet, and the sound is out this way.
Yeah, that's right. So the culvert we're looking at was right there where the.
Right there.
Oh, okay.
And their W6 is all this in here.
Right.
And there's another head wall here, another head wall here and here so there's a head wall at each end of the culvert that runs into that drains, what do they call it, W5 into W6.
Right.
Right.
All right. Well, why don't we make, well, as I said, if anyone has any other issues regarding this proposal, then why don't we, okay, well, why don't we make a sort of recommendation here of, having no objection to the application. This is COP, actually.
Right.
John, it's Jeff.
Yeah,
Can I make a comment?
absolutely.
Didn't we look at a proposal here some years ago where they were proposing to plant wetland vegetation as an alternative to excavating the contaminated material? Do we know whatever it was a test? It was like a
Yes.
pilot project.
It was a pilot project. Let me see if I could share my, let me see here. Oh boy, let me see here. Let me see if I can get my screen in here. Yeah, over in, Jeff, I think that area was over in here.
See,
If you can see the screen here, they were planning to do some plantings, and they had a boxed off, I think it was like a 10 by 10 or 10 by 20 foot area. There were about 3 of them. And they were planning to do different types of, not excavating, they were going to put some soil, and they were looking for something that was actually how much of soil was going to be material would be percolating up through that soil. I never saw any other application, or never saw what the data, if any data were presented. I haven't seen anything from that, Jeff, but you're correct. Yeah, this is going back about 7 years ago.
I'll look for that, but this particular project, I think we can say more than just no objection. We could say it's consistent with the harbor management plan.
Yes,
To remediate a contaminated area, and we recommend that they also investigate the culvert that we just talked about as necessary.
Yeah, the head wall areas.
And
Why
might
don't you attach Chris's photograph to your letter showing that condition of that head wall? That culvert.
Yeah, I'll email a couple of them to the group. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. And I can put that in our letter of response to them.
I wouldn't limit it to just that one. I would say to all. All head, maybe one's ready to go. Who knows? But
All right, I agree. All right. That was Jeff. Yeah.
yes, sir.
All right.
John,
Joe.
it's Joe.
Yes.
That area, especially where you can see like the sandy beach,
Yeah.
that's prime area for diamondback terrapin laying their eggs. So if they come down to the actual Long Island shore with any of the work, they could impact that. And the area is also famous for a habitat for Squilla impusa, the mantis shrimp.
There's quite a bit of verbiage in the documents about looking out for terrapins throughout the
Right.
packet.
Yeah, I
But
haven't seen it.
Yeah. Joe, I can send you this application if you want to, take a quick look at it.
Sure.
But they do talk about all of the flora and fauna in that area.
Okay.
Yeah. And they do mention the aspect of the turtles.
and
John, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, this is John. Okay, I was trying to weigh in before. I didn't get this plan to review it for whatever reason.
Yeah, John, I sent it to everybody, as a matter of fact, through the,
No, I'm sure you did. For maybe there was some reason I couldn't open it or
Right.
whatever. But are they claiming that this is total remediation of all the property?
No, just those designated areas.
no, just that, yeah.
Right. Are they claiming that there is contamination elsewhere as well?
I don't think they're making that claim at all, John. They're just talking about that one area, because I'm sure.
No, I understand that, but shouldn't we be inquiring
Yes,
about the amount of contamination that still remains and what their plans are
yes, John.
for
I think,
remediation?
yes, I think that's what we were going to suggest, John. Maybe we could in the letter ask that a representative of NRG or whatever the entity is called attend the next meeting of the commission to describe to talk about this
because-
and any other plans they may have on the property.
Right, because that has to be a Superfund site,
Yeah.
I would think. And it's strongly federally regulated. And I know there's monies for Superfund sites, but it's sparse and it takes years and years to get it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if this is being done in an attempt to sell it, and then it's still contaminated to any degree, what happens to the future development if we're not aware of it? And obviously, if they're doing excavation and testing and yada, 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 now's the time to make those determinations in
Yeah.
depth.
All right.
So someone should come from NRG to the commission meeting and
I didn't find an actual number. Maybe I didn't look hard enough. I thought I looked hard enough. All right, I certainly no problem with that.
we can get that, John. We'll get the name of somebody.
Right.
What,
Yeah,
I
Deep
looked,
has to have it.
I didn't look real hard, but I was trying to find the what they're gonna do with the spoils, what they're gonna do with the dredge material.
Yeah, I didn't see that
They
in
said
there.
take off site.
They were gonna take it off site, and that's all they had mentioned. It wasn't, they weren't gonna leave it
is
on
upland
site.
disposal. Okay, well, that's good. But
There's a pretty elaborate process for dewatering and getting it off site. It had to go to an upland disposal facility approved by the NRG. It really, I was very
Yeah.
impressed with the thoroughness of that part.
Well,
of the
that's what I
document.
said. It was a very thorough, just in that one area, but you're right, John. You know, what are the future plans of remediation of that entire area? Or the impact it could have of what they don't plan to do, at least for now.
yeah, well, the northern part is the really dirty part, and that, I mean, that's where all the coal slag went, and I think that is not part of the development process. I don't
See,
think-
that's what Jeff was talking about earlier, about 5, I'm gonna say about 7, maybe even 8 years ago. They submitted a somewhat, well, and I'd have to go back and look at who submitted that proposal. I've tried to go back and look for it, but I didn't see it. I couldn't find it right away, but what they plan to do is more like a little experiment of putting different types of soils down and seeing what percolates up through that material and do testing on each one of those 3 sites that they had proposed. That's what I vaguely remembered. But then all of a sudden it sort of died on the vine. I didn't hear anything more about it.
We asked him to give us an update on that project as well.
Yeah, well, I don't know if they put it in, Jeff. I'm not sure exactly who put it in, but I was trying to look for it, but I couldn't find it. Right, you know, as I said. All
We'll find it.
right.
Well, it's out for RFP now. I mean, the development is, you know,
All right, so we'll ask for, as I said, ask them to review the project on the next month's meeting, a July meeting. Propose the same type of questions we were talking about this evening.
I mean, it doesn't look like the walk bridge is going to get to use it.
Well, that was that was one of the potential questions that we could, you know, how would this remediation project impact what they plan to do?
How do we know that, Chris?
Because they have an RFP out for development of it.
Yet the
I forwarded that
DOT
around to everybody, right? Did you guys
Right,
also?
but the DOT persons at the last meeting or the last Shellfish Commission meeting said they were still negotiating with the owner.
Well, yes, I mean, true. Nothing's signed. I don't know whether, you know, the DOT can, you know, strike a deal, but, right, nothing is done, but it is certainly not, it's certainly not in the bag for the DOT. If they can't make an offer that NRG can't refuse, they will build the bridge in Albany or Mississippi or Alabama.
Well,
Harbor View.
then they should tell us that. Then we should know that.
Well, nobody knows what's happening, just like nobody knows what's happening with anything with Eversource or anything else, because they don't have control.
That's right. Well, all right. Well, as I said, if you want to postpone this till next month's meeting, we'll invite NRG representatives to come forward, because if that's it, then we'll ask also Mr. Bajek, who has the 14 at the Shoreview River Shorefront Park application, to attend as well.
But John, I don't mean to keep interrupting you. I'm sorry, but if this is a certificate of permission application,
Yeah.
DEEP can act on it.
That's true. Right. That's right.
Absent a comment of the Harbor Commission. So the commission may wish to make a comment on this, saying that the remediation done, you know, properly planned, and it would be consistent with the harbor management plan, and direct them to look at all of the outfalls or
All right.
however
Well,
we
that's
describe
okay. That's
that.
right. That's good
And
too.
then-
Yeah, we can do that, and then for next month, make a request that
And-
they attend next month's meeting for additional questions that we have on that area.
Right, we should alert.
Yeah, as Jeff pointed out, that's our responsibility at this point, being it's a COP. But we need to document our notes and our questions and things we need answers on, as far as that, you know, incorporated within our comments,
Right.
as our comments.
What's the
So-
date? What's the date on the COP, John? I'm sorry, I can't look at with this on the screen. I can't
Oh
see
boy,
mine.
yeah, I don't have the. Well, I
But
guess
we-
I do.
we can inform Deep that, you know, what we've discussed tonight, and that we request that a representative be at the next commission meeting and
Yes.
reserve our right to provide additional comments.
Right, that's right. Okay,
Right, and so, and our observations about the culvert will be part of that, right? Because
this letter, yeah, the letter that we sent out now.
Should be.
A functioning culvert system is probably part of their deep permit for that whole area.
Mhm.
You know, I mean,
Yeah, we can-
Otherwise, it's not going to be a road for very long there. You know,
John, did they give a timeline for any of this? Because wouldn't that affect what Eversource may or may not, not Eversource, what
They did give a
the
timeline.
DOT may or may not be able to do?
They did give a timeline, John. I don't recall. I think it was like 3 or 4 months.
September 2021 was the start of the project.
Yeah.
but whatever they
Okay.
do, whatever they do over here is so far away from the basin on the lower right part of your picture that it wouldn't affect the DOT at all. It's nothing to do with the
It was
DOT operation. The DOT wouldn't be leasing that part of the land anyways.
But
No,
the,
but the influx, they plan to bring trucks into that area though, Chris.
what the documentation said was a September 2021 start date and a length of 10 months to accomplish this project, as I recall.
It won't conflict with the DOT in time or in space.
Okay,
Okay, all right. well, why
moving
don't we
right
make-
along.
All right, well, why don't we make a recommendation here that we find the application consistent with the harbor management plan? And then with the comments being that, we request that they have to check the culverts, for, functioning, they function properly. And, request that they come to that a representative of the NRG come to our next meeting to, address some further questions that we didn't have on the
And you
project.
know, I would also refer this to the Shellfish Commission as well.
Well,
The COPs aren't provided as a requirement by the applicant to the Shellfish Commission.
Yeah.
And so if there is any spillage or the issues with the culverts that could affect the natural shellfish bed, the Shellfish Commission should have an opportunity to comment on this at its next meeting.
All right. All right. Well, we'll still get our letter out with
Yeah.
again, with that additional caveat with regard to requesting the Shellfish Commission review, since it is affecting water in and around Nauk Harbor, which is a shellfish reserve. Okay.
Mhm.
All right.
All right,
right.
John, anything else on application review?
No, that's it. The Shorefront Park application is removed off the table as a request of the agent.
Right. And DiNardo's is off the table right now as well?
No, well, that we have not, what? Oh, just no.
There's nothing more to do on that tonight, John.
Yeah.
Yes, I know.
All right.
But they haven't gotten back to us with any revised
No.
plans or,
No,
No,
they have not. I mean, there've been other issues that I think we could perhaps discuss, but nothing under application review. One of them being the issue down at, the letter is going out for Vive Decker and also for 13 River Drive. We're sort of waiting for that little formative activity going on down there.
doesn't that warrant some conversation right now at this point? Because there've been a lot of citizen complaints and the association's complaints and.
Well, we did make comment on the pre-application. The further remarks that we had that are ongoing was to have the owner or have the agent, I think, which is Mr. Bajek, indicate what the distance would be from where the new dock might be to the subsequent to the neighboring shoreline. But that was it. Most of the comments involved view, the fact that the new application, the dock and the yeah, the dock and the ramp will be elevated of 5-foot area. People were complaining about it interfering with their view. But we did have a discussion with Sue Jacobson, and they don't tend to have a problem with that application. With regard to its distance, they don't feel as though it's going to be.
No, I would, that one, I think we pretty much settled. I was talking about the rocks
Yeah,
down on Nyklid.
Nyklid, yeah, yeah.
Nyklid, yeah.
Well, that's a bone of contention that we need to pick up with DEP as well, because when we reviewed that application and Shellfish reviewed that application, we certainly had an issue with regard to removing of those rocks. And now, as I understand, that the Army Corps was supposed to issue a permit, and then no permit was issued. And now these rocks are sort of sitting out in this area, waiting to be replaced or actually repositioned. And I'm not sure if the DEP in their application and their permit indicated where those rocks were supposed to go. Right now, I don't think they're going anywhere. They're sort of sitting in one big pile, and I guess the neighbors are having an issue with that, and which I can understand why.
Yeah, well, they stage them in the water instead of staging them on the shore to put them where they're supposed to be later on. So that they created a navigation issue right now.
Well, I basically, from our standpoint, I don't know what else to do about it other than have the harbor. I asked the harbor master if he was sort of reviewing the whole, where the barges are being kept and where the workboats are being kept and how that's being processed along. And I haven't heard back yet from him.
Is he on the call? I guess not.
Mr.
Greg, are
Bezek?
you there or?
Oh, Harbor Master.
Greg, no. Yes, the harbor master. Because I mean, at this point, there's something that should be done, and a violation should be in place because it's contrary to the permit. It's creating a navigational hazard. The barges, yes, they should be as stated in the application for the operation and the tides and all, but putting those rocks and creating a navigational problem when there's a lot of local citizenry that are using those waters on a daily basis. That to me is an issue.
Well, should we send a letter to the Army Corps and send a letter to DEP asking what are they doing about this situation, because they created this problem?
Right. Well, yes, because
they created this problem.
Right, but that's what the neighbors are up in arms about.
That's correct. And they've been in contact with the Corps, members from the Corps, and they've been in contact with the DEP. And so far, I haven't heard, from what I'm seeing from the letters going back and forth, any remediation of the issues that they have right now. Resolution of the issues.
So we could again inquire of DEEP the status of their response to these concerns. And I know the Shellfish Commission has been actively involved too. And Steve sent a text a little while ago saying he's caught in an airport in Miami or someplace and can't join the meeting.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly have no problem of throwing our hat in the ring and all this, because, I was a little annoyed about the whole aspect of what the DEP was doing, because they unleashed this themselves. And so far, I haven't seen anybody come down monitoring it. Maybe we should.
Well, we could also remind them again that if a notice of violation is to be issued on this, that we would want to be copied on that. And as we've said before, so that we're aware of the concerns. We ask, as for a status report on how they're being addressed. And if there is any notice of violation to be issued, to please provide it to the commission, something like that.
All right.
For a status report.
Okay. All right. So that we can. All right. We'll work. We can get out a letter on that regard. Okay.
All right. And would that be the consensus of the commission to make that inquiry then, so we could say that the commission agreed to do that tonight.
Does anybody have any objection to following up in that regard? because we go from meeting to meeting to meeting. This is ongoing work.
Well, yes, no, as I said,
Something should happen right away, so we should jump right into this.
yes.
And I know Steve, I believe, did a site visit there,
Yeah.
and
That's what I
he's
was,
pretty upset about what's taking place.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
All
I
right,
wish
is
he
any
was on the
Commissioners
call.
have any objection to, again, us proposing a letter to that regard to DEP regarding the issues dividing on, regarding 7-9 Nyclid Terrace? Of what just about we discussed. John, you all right? All right, well,
Colin.
just by raise of hands, then everyone in a certain agreement with the commission requesting the DEP. Right, okay, aye.
Aye.
All right, so we'll get a letter out. We'll get a letter out with regard to 7-9 Nyclid.
Okay,
All right,
moving right along.
all right.
I guess we're at the point of the chairman's.
Yeah, so
Report.
just as a recap, we'll get our letter out to the COP for One Manresa Island. The agent for Shorefront Park has requested that we postpone their application until next month's meeting. And we'll get a letter out for 7-9 Nyclid Terrace regarding the rocks, remediation of those rocks. Jeff?
And John, is it appropriate to mention the correspondence that we've received for 26 Shorefront Park, even though we're not going to discuss it? Or should we-
I would like to hold off on that,
All right.
perhaps, maybe till next meeting.
All
We can get that, we can send that around to the commission members who are involved. All right,
All right.
Okay.
all right. Well, that's end of application review.
All right, now we'll get on to the chairman's report. Michelle, can you weigh in on this? Are we going to be able to meet up close and personal next month? Hopefully.
I haven't heard any word from, I usually get all my information from Alexis in conservation. So, and she's been keeping me updated on whether or not what the next steps are. I knew after the meetings in June, they were supposed to be releasing a plan soon for the city in regards to in-person meetings, because recently, this week was our first week with no mask requirement in City Hall too. So I'm assuming there's going to be steps towards it soon. But I can follow up in an email to you all if there's any changes.
Yeah, that'd be great if you can, because
Sure.
I'd like to start planning for that
Yeah,
meeting as well. And I'm sure the public might want to attend as well. So
sure.
we'll
That's not
go
a
from
problem.
there.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
sure.
I got an email from Jeff today, rightfully so, asking me what's going on with the city and our fee proposal that we put in. I have not heard a word. I don't know if it's on a back burner, it's not a priority, or it's within a process. I mean, I would think that, once the law department looked at it, that it would go to a committee of the council and we'd move forward. I mean, the time is burning here. So, Jeff, can you and Alan get a hold of Jessica?
Absolutely. I will follow up with Jessica
Because you
and
guys have both dealt with her on this and other subjects, and find out what's going on and then copy me and let me know what's going on.
absolutely, I will reach out to Jessica.
Because you guys did a tremendous amount of work, and to let this just sit at this point, and it's one of those things that it's taking us 2 years to try to put some of this through. And if they're going to have to do a public hearing or go through the council committees, I mean, it's something that we need to be jumping on if we want to make it happen for next year, next boating season. So
Yes, sir.
that's all I have to report at this moment. And I asked if Scully was on the phone, and he's not. I don't have a report from him or any conversation. Jeff Stedman, is there anything that you want to weigh in on or
Yeah,
add to our conversation?
a few things maybe without going on too long, but there was quite a good meeting that John Pinto was attended with representatives of the Bureau of Aquaculture and Connecticut Sea Grant, which is based in the University of Connecticut, because there apparently is an amount of funds available from the Federal Bureau of Department of Agriculture available for enhancement of shellfish resources. So the Bureau of Aquaculture in Connecticut and Sea Grant is visiting many of the towns along the coast to identify opportunity areas or potential projects or candidate projects for shellfish enhancement. So prior to the meeting, we put together a presentation on the mudflats south of Veterans Park, which is identified in the harbor management plan as the most significant intertidal resource in the inner harbor and has value as a shellfish resource, as habitat. So we met on the site, we talked about it, and I believe that we can make a good argument that this should be one of the candidate sites in Connecticut for funding through this federal program for enhancement of shellfish resources. And at some point, the Harbor Commission would be necessary and beneficial for the Harbor Commission to express its support for this. And we would probably have to, in conjunction with the Shellfish Commission, make an application for the actual grant monies for this project. So it's something that's still in the preliminary stages, but we've identified what we think is a candidate site, which is even more important given that Norwalk is, or significant that Norwalk is the center of the state's shellfishing industry. So I think that was a very positive meeting that we, and field visit. Even though they all got parking tickets at Veterans Park, Greg was able to handle that. I think it was, or Mike Silva handled that after the fact. So I think that was very positive. We'll keep everybody informed about that. Other things had to do, we talked about, maybe we can mention them under the water quality report that Joe talks about. But we attended a meeting intended to reconvene the Norwalk River Watershed Initiative. And this was hosted by the Southwest Conservation District, which is, I guess, a successor to the older Fairfield County Soil and Water Conservation District. Those were consolidated. But in the absence of anybody else seeming to have the initiative to reconvene this group, the Southwest Conservation District has taken some initiative. So the first meeting was to discuss the watershed, and we put together a presentation of the Harbor Management Commission's interests. And maybe Alan, maybe we can get that on the website somehow. The Harbor Management Commission's interests in the watershed and role in establishing the watershed initiative to start, and the programs that we've participated in and have done with respect to water quality. So the next meeting is going to be for the purpose of figuring out what the role of this group should be. There are bylaws for representatives on the Norwalk River Watershed Initiative Committee, if that's the right word. And the Harbor Commission has a representative on that committee. So one question is, what will the committee do in the future? Would it be available to, say, write a letter or express support for some of our initiatives that have to do with particular projects like the Walk Bridge, or would it just be a discussion every 2 or 3 months to talk about things, which is sort of valuable in itself? So I thought that was and Joe Schneerlein attended. Also, a representative from the Norwalk River Watershed Association attended. But I think this is a positive thing that we, oh, and also the Southwest Conservation District would serve as a repository of information on the watershed. Would try to recreate or find the materials that were on the old watershed website. But I thought that was a positive discussion that we had, and we're looking forward to the next meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Finance, Alan? Alan, are you
I
there?
have no report. I did not, had a miscommunication with Mariana at the City Hall, so I've not received my monthly statement from the city. So as soon as I get that,
Okay.
I'll email it out to everybody.
All right, perfect. Newsletter, Alan?
No report.
Okay. Plans and recommendations, Jeff?
Other than trying to get an update on where we stand on the proposed fees, which you've already covered, I will contact Jessica and see where that is, and I will send out an update to the commission.
Perfect, thank you.
Mr. Chairman? Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
you skipped over mooring committee, although I'll wait to the end. If it's-
Oh, I'm sorry, Dennis. And that's one of our most important committees that you're the head of.
That's very nice of you to say that. Anyway,
All right.
the mooring committee continues to review the renewal applications and continues to address any issues and concerns that come up. We have 52 approved applications and 53 applications under review. Emails were sent to the managed fields requesting that the final mooring field inventory and final payment be made. Under harbor safety, the committee is not aware of any issues or concerns regarding harbor safety at this time unless someone has information that I'm not aware of.
The only thing I'd add is that the boat on the rocks at Tavern Island was removed on Thursday. That's no longer there.
Okay, well, that's a good sign. A little late, but better
Well-
than never.
Exactly.
Dennis, can I ask you, how's the communication between you and the harbor master in regards to issues that may be arising, especially under safety? And if there's any hiccups with the moorings?
There's better communication. There could be communications. And to be honest with you, there is very little. Unless I make a phone call, I don't get one. So I'm not trying to pick on Greg as he has a lot to do and so forth. And maybe
Yeah.
maybe it's not an issue that he needs to make me aware of, but it would be nice to know what's going on in the harbor, to be honest with you.
Yep, for all of us. Okay, water quality, Joe?
Yes. I attended the meeting that Jeff Stedman talked about with the Shellfish Commission and the location of several beds. And what was fascinating, and Jeff didn't mention it, is you not only
See if you
have,
can speak a little louder, Joe.
okay, you not only have shellfish beds for the clams and oysters, but also they pointed out that they saw a preponderance of mussels starting to come back, especially in 5 Mile River, where they could see them growing on the bulkheads, which is something that this area had quite a bit of decades ago. They started coming back, but never really took on strongly. But it seems like in that area in particular, the mussels are coming back. And this is not the rib mussels, this is the blue mussels, which are the edible ones. Yeah. Is there a question? Okay.
Nope.
We're working on taking a look at our mission statement. And one of the things we found is we had fragments of an old mission statement. Jeff was able to dig them up. So Jeff's working on, along with Tom Bartley, or Jim Bartley, developing a complete mission statement that we will share with everybody, because obviously the Harbor Commission and the Shellfish Commission have to share it. The other thing that we're working on right now is we're putting together a whole bunch of issues that we've looked at over the past year, and where we think the city has to get involved via either the commissions, the different city agencies, as well as potentially the state government. And one of them happens to be one of the ones you're all familiar with, and that's the Wilson Point issue. And we don't have to address Wilson Point, but since what happened with the discussion, since we've had several hurricanes and severe storms, a lot of homes have been raised, and there's a possibility that drains could have been put in other locations around the city. So what we'd like to do eventually, and this is one of the recommendations we're working on, is possibly go around and have another survey done of the different drains. This would have to be done similar to what we did in 1991, where you get 1 or 2 interns that travel around the coast at low tide and document the presence of all the drains that they now see. And this way we'll get an assurance of whether or not new drains have been put in anywhere on the shoreline. And that's it, unless you have any questions.
Not on this end.
That's wonderful.
Okay.
Could I say something, Joe or
Yeah.
John?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, and also what the committee is doing, and with Michelle's help, looking at the old minutes of the Harbor Commission. And we started in 1990 and 1991. And it's really very interesting to, and the intern program started in 1991 with funding from the Harbor Commission. That was the Harbor Commission's program. It wasn't Harbor Watch's program or Earth Watch's program. It was the Harbor Commission's program. But looking at those old minutes, my feeling is it would be a valuable project. And I don't know if it would be an Eagle Scout project or someone, a student of some sort, to look at those old minutes and scan them all. And so we could digitize the history of the institutional history of the Harbor Management Commission. Because when I was going through the minutes of 90 and 91, I was looking specifically for the reports of the Water Quality Committee at the time. But there's all sorts of information about programs, about the adoption of the Harbor Management Plan, the review of applications when that first started. And I think, you know, as with other people don't know that history. But if we could scan those minutes, going back to the formation of the Harbor Commission, and have them organized some way where we could go back and new members could see what's been done in the past, and hopefully not repeat the mistakes of the past. But I just thought that would be a good project for us to discuss and to try to pursue somehow. But anyway, for the near term, for the Water Quality Committee, we're developing the preserving the historical record of the start of the committee. And Joe was involved right at the start as a representative from Brian McMahon High School. And document what the committee has done, so we don't lose sight of what the mission is. And with respect to the storm drains, as Joe mentioned, the storm drain program, it wasn't meant to target anybody or to look for violators, but to understand how many drains there were and what might be coming out of the drains. And I think that first year we identified 150 drains. And so the additional testing that we're talking about now is a continuation of the program that was started in 1991 to understand the conditions in the harbor and what could be affecting the harbor. It's not to target anybody. But that's all I have to say. And then thank you to Michelle for getting those records out of the old storage, wherever, I forget where that is, but we'll
And that same subject, Jeff, do you think that we should really be at this point, because of public outcry, environmental issues, the fact that we're just doing a lot of disturbance in the river, do you think that we should emphasize with the people that are doing the testing now, that they give us some kind of preference in that testing, and maybe do another study on all the outfalls and go one by one and give us some current data?
I think that that's something that the Water Quality Committee, John, could maybe discuss at its next meeting and make a recommendation to the commission for the July meeting.
Right, because I mean, I think that at this point, we've come to that time. It's 20 years later, and it's time to dig into that again.
I think so, yeah. It was June of 1991. Mr. De
That's
Palma
20 years.
20 years ago, Mr. De Palma reported that 2 summer interns had been hired and were sampling storm sewers and beaches for bacteria, oxygen, nitrogen, and some other things. And that the health department was doing the testing. So that was the first report of the interns, and the interns were hired through an interview process back in May, when Mr. De Palma, who was the secretary of the commission at the time, reported that they have set up a committee to interview applicants for summer internships. It's very interesting, but we're not doing anything different than the commission started 20 years ago. Trying to understand what's affecting the harbor.
1991 is 30 years ago, isn't it?
Well, right.
Yeah, 30 years
Wow,
ago.
you're right.
Oh,
Who's
You're right.
counting?
And
I
John,
lost 20 years.
Thanks for reminding us, Alan.
Yeah.
Right.
John, what's
But
important,
Joe, don't you think this is something that warrants, 30 years later, digging into and getting some up to date information?
well,
Especially you being a scientist, and you were doing some of that stuff with the Maritime Aquarium as well, monitoring, and we should put some resources to it. The city should be interested, very interested, if they're looking for development that's going along the coastline and they're hiring consultants. I'm sure that they could find the money for something as worthwhile as this to take into consideration when they're approving a set of plans and pipes are running through these different properties, that this has to be contended with. It has to be dealt with prior to any permits being, issued.
John, especially with the severe storms we've had and the more severe storms that we're going to get, you've had a lot of development that has taken place all around. And people have raised their homes. They've put drainage in. Some of it went into the streets. Some of it, however, may have gone into the backyard that sat on the sound or a salt marsh somewhere. And we should start documenting that, so that should somebody's oil tank, for example, leak and the oil spews into the sound, we have an idea of the potential for where it might have come from. So it's,
and I think that's something that your committee could really wrap its arms around.
well, it's something that's a little bit overdue, and it's something that is a protection for the shellfish and the sound. And I'm surprised that the city hasn't gone through the task of documenting any new drainage. Even though they may not want to permit it, that's not necessary if just to document it. And that way we have an idea of where things are coming from. And what happened, I was responsible for getting the interns. And what I did is I wrote to every college in New England and New York that had an environmental studies program and might have had or a professor teaching a similar course where they did field work. And that's where we got applications from these different professors. And we offered them, I'd like to say the Harbor Commission funded all of it. They did not. The Frank J. Scallon Foundation funded a lot of it. And they're what helped pay for the salaries for these fellas. John Pino and I happened to be at a dinner with Paul Mahoney, and Mahoney asked us at that point if we thought,
Paul Maloney.
Paul Maloney, right?
He was, yeah, right.
He was the head of the foundation.
He was,
And-
yeah,
and donated, I think it was $6,000 that first summer.
yeah. We got a couple of interns from the Scallon Foundation to do that. That's correct.
Chris and Chris.
Right.
Well, at the August 1991 meeting of the Harbor Commission, Mr. De Palma said it is the best $7,000 ever spent on the Norwalk River. And he said that 150 outfalls have been identified. Mr. Donovan said that hopefully in the next 20 years or so, that map can be completed. So,
Here we are 30 years later.
yeah. DPW should have
All
that
right.
map. Well, anyway, so thank you. I'm sorry to go on about that, but it's quite interesting. The historical record is quite interesting and we shouldn't lose sight of it.
Not at all. Okay, we're at the point of public comment. Is there anyone from the public out there that would like to be recognized?
think
Is there
there's
anyone
one-
from the public that would like to be recognized?
There's one person, if they'd like to raise their hand, I'll bring you over to allow you to speak. It's just one person, I think.
Okay, you said there is a person?
Yeah, Linnell, I believe, is on attendees section, and if she'd like to speak, she could raise her hand. It's on the
Okay.
bottom. There's a feature at the bottom to raise your hand. Give her a minute, and if not, then I guess there's no one else.
Okay, so let's go into the minutes. Somebody want to make a motion to approve the minutes as modified?
John, did you get, I guess I made comments on the minutes. I guess you received those?
Yeah, I got them, John. And I
Okay,
made
thank you.
corrections and sent them out. Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Well, make a motion to accept the minutes as amended?
I'm sorry, yes.
Seconded.
All right, aye.
Any objections? No objections, so moved. A motion to adjourn?
Make the motion to adjourn?
I don't hear any objections to that motion, so I'm assuming everybody's happy with it. Just as an aside to potentially meeting in person next month, does anyone have an issue with starting our meetings at 6 o'clock? So we do like we have done now for expediency, is do a combination of plan review and our board meeting?
Certainly have
Okay,
no
so
issue
let's
with
wait to hear what's going on. If there's no objections,
it. John, can I ask you a
that's
question?
what
Are
I-
they planning to do a hybrid? You know, I know well, just take.
or if some can call in, well, yes, listen, we'll find out, because they'll give us, like Michelle said, she's waiting to hear what the next phase will be, and that could very well be a hybrid.
Well, because
But,
I was
and-
curious,
but-
because Mr. Bajek, who is down in Sanibel in Florida, I don't know how he would attend, unless, of course, he wants to come back in person to attend the meeting. But if they're going to allow, again, the hybrid where we have both.
Well,
on-call-
we'll find that out. If not, he's gonna have to send a representative or make the trip. I mean, we can't
I got you.
adjust our whole way of doing business, our modus operandi, just for him because he's in Florida.
I got you.
John, I have a question
Sure.
regarding the 6 o'clock meeting. Are you talking about combining the Harbor Management Commission
Yes,
with the application
Correct.
review like we've been doing?
yes.
Well, we
It
usually
seems like
started,
it's,
we started the application review, we started at 6 o'clock and then we adjourned and then John would take over or the chair, the commission would take over at 7 o'clock.
So you're saying all
7:30.
you need to be there at 6 o'clock, even though you're not on the application review committee.
correct, because what we're doing, we're simultaneously reviewing, commenting, and approving. Instead of having redundancy of doing the 6 o'clock meeting and then at 7:30, repeating ourselves all over again.
Okay.
So then I'll continue
So-
sending out applications to then all the committee members. Commission
Correct.
members, rather.
Yeah, because it's the same thing as the presentation when the meeting starts at 7:30. So now it's all done. I think it's more efficient.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
So again, we'll see what the city's going to offer us to have available to do, and we'll go from there. All right, so good meeting, guys. Glad we got through early.
Thank you, John.
I appreciate everybody and their time, and I apologize for not being able to. I'm gonna have to take this computer because that's the one I use for my Zoom calls. I got to take it and get it repaired. I think I'm obviously must have a virus or something. So, all right, guys. Ciao for now.
All right. Thank you
Bye,
very
John.
much. All right,
Have a good
everyone.
night.
Care.
Thank
Good
you.
evening, guys.
You well.
Take care.